Insane neighbors from hell keep inviting themselves into my house and stealing my possessions. So my husband, let's call him Jim, and I recently moved into a new house in what seemed like a quiet and friendly neighborhood. We were so excited. It was our dream home with a big yard for our kids, Max and Lily, to play in. But little did we know, we were about to meet the neighbors from heck, Karen and her husband, Bob, and their perfect little brat, Timmy. It all started innocently enough. We were unpacking boxes when Karen popped over to introduce herself. She seemed nice at first, complimenting our garden and bringing over some homemade cookies. But then she started asking a bunch of personal questions. How much did you pay for the house? What do you do for a living? Are you planning to have more kids? It was weird, but I tried to brush it off. Maybe she was just overly friendly. Things started to get strange when Karen began showing up unannounced. She would come over almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and just let herself into our house. One time I was in the shower, and I heard someone walking around downstairs. I thought it was Jim, but nope, it was Karen. She said she just wanted to borrow some sugar. Who does that? I tried to set boundaries by telling her to call before coming over, but she just laughed it off. Then she started coming over with Timmy. Now, Timmy was a whole other level of entitled. He would run around our house, break things, and scream at the top of his lungs. Karen never disciplined him. She would just smile and say, "Boys will be boys." One day I was in the kitchen making dinner when I heard a loud crash. I ran into the living room to find Timmy had knocked over our new TV. I was furious. I told Karen that they needed to leave and that Timmy couldn't come over anymore unless he could behave. Karen looked at me like I was the crazy one. "He's just a child," she said. "You need to be more understanding." I thought that was the end of it, but things got even crazier. The next morning, I woke up to find Karen and Bob in our backyard, setting up a kiddie pool and a barbecue grill. I ran outside and asked them what the heck they were doing. Karen had the audacity to say, "Oh, we thought it would be nice to have a neighborhood barbecue. Your yard is so much nicer than ours." I couldn't believe it. I told them they needed to leave and take their crap with them. Bob got all huffy and said, "We're just trying to be friendly. You don't need to be such a witch about it." They finally left, but not before Timmy threw a tantrum and knocked over our potted plants. Jim and I decided to put up a fence to keep them out of our yard. We thought that would solve the problem, but nope. Karen and Bob just saw it as a challenge. They started climbing over the fence to get into our yard. We even caught Timmy trying to dig under it like some kind of escape artist. One night, we came home to find Karen and Bob having a bonfire in our backyard. They had invited a bunch of people over, and there was trash everywhere. We called the police, but by the time they arrived, Karen and Bob had packed up and left. The police said there wasn't much they could do since it was technically a civil matter. Things kept escalating. Karen started spreading rumors about us to the other neighbors. She told them we were drug dealers and that we abused our kids. CPS even showed up at our house one day because of an anonymous tip. Luckily, they saw through the lies pretty quickly, but it was still incredibly stressful. The final straw was when we came home one day to find our house had been broken into. The place was trashed, and a bunch of our stuff was missing. We had security cameras, and guess who was caught on tape? Timmy and his little friends. They had broken in and stolen our electronics, jewelry, and even some of our kids' toys. We called the police again, and this time they took it seriously. Timmy and his friends were arrested, and Karen and Bob were finally charged with trespassing and theft. We thought that would be the end of it, but Karen and Bob didn't go quietly. They started harassing us online, posting nasty comments on social media, and even creating fake profiles to try and smear our reputation. We had to get a restraining order against them, but they still found ways to make our lives miserable. Eventually, they moved away, and things finally started to settle down. But the whole experience left us shaken. We never expected to encounter such entitled and crazy neighbors. It's been a few months since they left, and we're slowly getting back to normal. But every time I see a new neighbor moving in, I can't help but feel a little paranoid. Update 1. Hey everyone, I'm back with an update. I didn't expect so many people to be interested in my story. Your comments and support mean a lot. So here's what's been happening since I last posted. After Karen and Bob moved away, things were pretty peaceful for a while. We were able to enjoy our home and yard without any interruptions. But then, a few weeks ago, we got some new neighbors. I was really nervous at first, but they seemed nice enough. Let's call them Alice and Dave. Alice and Dave have a daughter, Emma, who is about the same age as Timmy. She's a sweet kid and gets along well with Max and Lily. For a while, everything was perfect. We even had a few barbecues together in our yard, with their permission, of course. But then, out of nowhere, Karen and Bob came back. I don't know if they were just visiting or if they moved back in with someone, but they started showing up in the neighborhood again. I tried to avoid them, but one day I was out in the yard and Karen came over. She acted like nothing had happened and started chatting with me like we were old friends. I told her that she wasn't welcome and that she needed to leave. Karen got all huffy and said, "I don't know why you're still so upset. We've moved on. You should too." I couldn't believe the nerve of this woman. I told her that she needed to stay away from us and our property, or I would call the police. Karen left, but I had a feeling this wasn't over. Sure enough, a few days later, we started getting strange packages in the mail. They were all addressed to us, but the contents were bizarre. One package had a dead fish in it, another had a bunch of fake spiders, and one even had a threatening note. We called the police, but they said there wasn't much they could do without proof of who was sending the packages. Then one night, we heard a loud noise outside. Jim went to check it out and found that someone had spray-painted liars across our garage door. We were furious and scared. We installed more security cameras and started keeping a close eye on everything. A few days later, we caught Karen on camera, sneaking around our yard in the middle of the night. She was throwing trash over the fence and trying to damage our garden. We called the police again, and this time they took it seriously. Karen was arrested for trespassing and vandalism. We thought that would be the end of it, but Bob started showing up at our house, demanding that we drop the charges. He would pound on our door and shout obscenities even when the kids were home. We had to call the police multiple times, and eventually we got a restraining order against him too. Alice and Dave were really supportive through all of this. They helped us clean up the mess and even offered to testify against Karen and Bob. It was nice to have some allies in the neighborhood. Karen and Bob are currently awaiting trial, and we're hoping that this will finally be the end of it. But in the meantime, we're just trying to live our lives and enjoy our home. I'll keep you all updated if anything else happens. Thanks again for all your support. Update 2. Hey everyone! I'm back with another update. I wish I could say things have calmed down, but this saga just keeps getting crazier. Thank you all for your support and advice. It means a lot to us. So, after Karen's arrest and the restraining order against Bob, we thought things would finally settle down. But of course, Karen and Bob had other plans. They posted bail, and even though they were supposed to stay away from us, they found ways to harass us indirectly. First, they started spreading more rumors about us in the neighborhood. They told people that we were the ones who had vandalized our own property for attention, and that we were trying to frame them. Some neighbors believed them and started giving us the cold shoulder. It was really disheartening, especially after everything we'd been through. Then, we started getting strange visitors at our door. People would show up claiming to be from various agencies, saying they had received complaints about us. One guy said he was from animal control and that he'd gotten reports of us abusing our pets. We don't even have any pets. Another time, someone claiming to be from Child Protective Services showed up, saying they'd received an anonymous tip about neglect. It was clear that Karen and Bob were behind these false reports, but proving it was another matter. The final straw came when our house was egged and TP'd one night. We caught Timmy and a couple of his friends on our security cameras, but they were wearing masks. We knew it was them, but again, without clear evidence, it was hard to take legal action. Jim and I were at our wits' end. We didn't know what to do. That's when Alice and Dave stepped up. They suggested we hold a neighborhood meeting to clear the air and tell our side of the story. I was hesitant at first, but we didn't have many other options. So we organized a meeting at our house and invited everyone in the neighborhood. Alice and Dave helped spread the word and even made some snacks to entice people to come. On the day of the meeting, we were nervous wrecks. But to our surprise, a lot of people showed up. We started by explaining everything that had happened since we moved in. We showed them the security footage and the threatening packages. Alice and Dave also spoke up, confirming our story and talking about their own experiences with Karen and Bob. By the end of the meeting, most of the neighbors seemed to be on our side. One neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, even apologized for believing the rumors and said she wished she had come to us first. It was a huge relief to finally have some support from the community. But of course, Karen and Bob didn't take this lying down. They found out about the meeting and showed up uninvited, causing a scene. Karen started screaming at us, calling us liars and trying to turn the neighbors against us again. Bob threatened to sue us for defamation. It was a mess. The police were called and Karen and Bob were escorted away. They were warned to stay away from us in the neighborhood, but I'm not holding my breath. We're currently in the process of pressing charges for harassment and hoping that this time they'll face some real consequences. In the meantime, things have been a bit quieter. We're still dealing with some fallout from the rumors, but most of the neighbors are supportive now. We've also installed even more security measures to protect ourselves. I'll keep you all updated if anything else happens. Thanks again for all your support and advice. We couldn't have gotten through this without you. Final update. Hey everyone, I'm back with what I hope is the final update to this saga. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It's been a long and exhausting journey, but I think we're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. After the neighborhood meeting and the police intervention, things were relatively quiet for a while. Karen and Bob seemed to have backed off, probably because they were dealing with their own legal issues. We were starting to feel a bit more at ease, though we were still cautious. Then we got a call from the police. They had been investigating Karen and Bob for some time, and they had discovered that they were involved in several other criminal activities. Apparently, they had been running some sort of scam operation, targeting people in different neighborhoods. They were finally arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud, harassment, and vandalism. We were relieved, but also a bit shocked. It made sense, though, given everything we had been through. We hoped that this would finally put an end to their reign of terror. With Karen and Bob out of the picture, we tried to focus on moving forward. We repaired the damage to our property and continued to build relationships with our neighbors. Alice and Dave were amazing throughout all of this, and we became really close friends. A few weeks ago, we got a surprise visit from Timmy's grandmother. She had heard about everything that had happened and wanted to apologize on behalf of her family. She was really sweet and seemed genuinely horrified by her daughter's behavior. She even offered to pay for some of the damages we had incurred. We accepted her apology and her offer to help with the damages. It was a small step towards healing, but it felt good to have some closure. We also learned that Timmy was going to stay with his grandmother for a while, which we hoped would be a good influence on him. As for our neighborhood, it's been a lot more peaceful. People have come together to support each other and make sure nothing like this happens again. We've organized a few community events and even started a neighborhood watch program. Jim and I are still cautious, but we're starting to feel like we can finally relax and enjoy our home again. Max and Lily are happy and thriving, and we're doing our best to move past this whole ordeal. I want to thank everyone who has followed our story and offered support and advice. It's been a tough journey, but knowing that there were people out there who believed us and supported us made a huge difference. We're hopeful that this is the end of our crazy neighbor saga. My parents really don't like my boyfriend, so they gave me an ultimatum. I'll try to make a long story short. I am an only child, and my current boyfriend and I have been dating for 6 years, starting when I was 19 and he was 20. We met at junior college where we started dating, and after that we went to different universities, but within an hour of each other. My parents met him early on by joining us at dinner. Everything seemed to go well. Then soon after, we went to his parents' house, who live about 2 hours from my parents, so I could meet his family, and after learning this, my mom told me how hurt she was that we didn't come to see them too. I expressed that this weekend was for me to meet his family, but it was clear that she felt almost betrayed. Fast forward, my parents invite me up to our cabin, and my boyfriend joins. We take my car because it was already loaded with laundry, etc. After we arrive, my dad pulls me aside and pretty much quietly yells at me how wrong it is that I drove, and that we took my car. He's the man, he should be driving, blah blah blah. This started everything going forward on a sour note. The cabin is in Tahoe. It gets cold in the winter, so my boyfriend wore a sweatshirt with his hood up during some of the time at the cabin. My parents to this day cite this as weird and rude, as well as a reason they don't like him. As we continue our relationship, it's clear that my parents don't like him, but they can't really give up what I would call good or justifiable reasons. They'll say he's just not a good fit for the family. They don't tell me to stop dating him, because they can't, I'm an adult, but they do tell me that I need to keep them and him separate. They don't want to really hear about him, and he's not welcome at their house or cabin. He's never cheated on me, abused me, he has no drug problems, etc. Nothing that a normal parent would cite as a problem. Eventually, it became an ultimatum given to me by my parents. They'd tell me that if you continue to date him, eventually it will be either him or us and you'll have to choose. Among other things, they would tell me that he'd never be an attorney, which is what he wanted to do, and insinuating that he probably wouldn't be much of anything at all. After undergrad, I started working at a financial firm. He graduated from undergrad at UC Berkeley and was accepted to law school across the country. We were always very serious about each other and made the decision to do long distance until he graduated and moved back to CA. My boyfriend has since graduated from and law school, moved home, and took the bar last month. He starts work this October and had a contract since last year. They have known about this as well. Now, 6 years into our relationship, I call my parents and tell them that we are going to be moving in together. About 20 minutes later, I get a text from my mom saying that she doesn't want to rain on my parade, but that this path excludes her and my dad from my future. That they love me, but they can't be in my life if I choose to be with my boyfriend. I told them I would never understand. Since then, they have sent me more and more text messages saying stuff like, "We feel like we're losing our daughter. This is heartbreaking," etc. And all at the same time, including that this is my choice and my fault. I texted my parents that I thought my boyfriend and I should come over and talk. That texting about this kind of thing is stupid, but not to be patronized or belittled, and if it turned to screaming, that we would leave. My parents then replied that they wanted to see me face to face to talk, but that my boyfriend isn't allowed. My boyfriend even called my father the night of the initial "we can't be part of your life" text to try and talk or meet up and see if there was a way to talk through any legitimate concerns. My dad did not answer and responded until a week plus later, only to text him that they haven't really ever liked him, that he wants to work through it with me alone, and it's mine and my boyfriend's fault for not trying to address things earlier. Among other ridiculous reasons to not like my boyfriend were, Berkeley isn't a man's college, my dad. One time in college, my professor lost my final exam, and when I found out via my final grades and was frantically calling her to figure out what happened, my parents told my boyfriend, "See, this is why we didn't want her to have a boyfriend in college. They've found ways to blame him for everything. The only thing that ever had any merit was that he wasn't working yet." Well, this was because he was going to school to be a lawyer. Apparently marrying someone who will make a lot of money is a bad thing. My boyfriend is the nicest, most calm and peaceful person ever, and he loves me more than anything. But apparently their pride is more important than being wrong and accepting him. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if this is normal, or if it's as wrong as it feels to my boyfriend and I. Note, boyfriend as well as my parents and myself are of the same race. Somewhat similar financial status as well. No important details left out, I promise. I wanted objective feedback. Believe me, if there was more, my parents would make it known to me, and I would have included it in this post. Update. After many more hurtful texts from my parents that said they can't accept my partner and that it doesn't matter if he's a good fit for me, if he's not a good fit for my family, then it's never going to work out, I went over in person to meet with them and pick up my legal documents. They made it clear that my boyfriend was not welcome, and that this was a family matter they needed to speak with only me about. Clear manipulation, obviously. So I went alone. I'm on my way, I know what I think and how I feel, I'm very sure of what I plan on saying. It was strange. Walking into your parents' house and feeling like you're meeting strangers. Kind of felt like having a 26-year-long relationship and being broken up with via text, then having to go pick up your shit and memories from your ex's house. Except that ex is your parents. After about an hour of small talk, we got into the nitty-gritty convo about the elephant in the room. A previous text that week had said, "We don't expect to change your mind, we just want to talk." But it's clear that this in-person meeting was a last-ditch attempt to shake me from my reality and into theirs. They came at me from every angle. He's not a man's man. Dad, I don't respect him. Dad, I hate him. He's taking away the most precious thing in our life. How could you not hate someone like that? Dad, even at some point physically threatening him. My mom was either agreeing or adding little tidbits and reminders of things she doesn't like about him. Some of which are things I mentioned in my previous post about when I went to meet his family and didn't see her and my dad too. Mentioning also that she doesn't like that I made the first move to talk to my boyfriend and not the other way around. You get the gist. It was all out war on my BF. They tell me I'm depriving them of a son-in-law. They say he is selfish for not breaking up with me years ago when he realized that my parents didn't like him. They even just started blindly throwing out shots like, I don't even know if he has any friends. Like WTF mom and dad, of course you don't know crap about him because you've made me keep my relationship out of earshot for 6 years, but I digress. It ends up being a 3-hour-long conversation where I spoke for all of maybe 5 minutes with my heart rate at 150 the whole time. Thanks for reminding me of that Apple Watch. They also don't fail to mention a few other shining points such as, "We knew you would put this on us, this is not an ultimatum, we are just reacting to your decision and choices." Was their reply to my saying, "This is not my choice, this is an ultimatum you've given me and neither my BF or I want this. We knew you would make us the bad guys because we're not our team boyfriend's name. Any of your friends and family who say we will come around or it will get better is lying to you and saying what you want to hear." They asked me why they should like or be impressed by my BF. I told them various accolades. Dad replied with, "Education doesn't impress me." I told them how wonderful he was through some of the toughest times in my life, college, and how he supported and kept me sane when even my parents were coming down on me about how I wasn't doing enough. They said, "That's what any boyfriend would do." No mom and dad, it's not, and the two of you certainly were making me feel worse that entire time. They said because my BF's dad helped him get through school by paying his tuition, that he's had everything in his life handed to him. Dad said, "I think your mom is having an epiphany about who you're becoming. Like I'm some monster." They said, "We feel like you're not listening to us because I'm not just blindly agreeing to break up with my BF." Dad said, "This kind of thing happens all the time," as if that makes it normal or justified. At the end, I have to break the news that in between all of the hurtful texts and prior to this meeting, my BF and I signed a lease and moved in together. Nothing they were going to say was going to sway me otherwise. Even they said that. So we had taken the leap and made the move the weekend before this meeting. I was commuting about 20-30 minutes before the move, and my commute is the same after the move. Only difference is we now live in the same city that my BF, new attorney with crazy early and late hours, works in. Believe me, I had all kinds of requirements prior to this move. It has to be safe, have an unit washer and dryer, safe parking, etc. And it's only for a year or two while we save the dollars so we can buy a home. Contrary to my parents' belief, I'm capable of rational decisions. I tell them first that we signed the lease and where it is, to try and lighten the blow that I am outright disobeying them. They start going off about how, of course, making it easy on him again. They saw me always going to my BF's house as me catering to him, even though the only reason was because we were never comfortable being together at their house. Then, of course, he became essentially banished. So they see this move as me being some smitten teenaged idiot, not about how this is a relationship with compromise. They tell me that my commute is going to be brutal, and that I'm lying to myself if I think it's not. Again, I have already been doing it for a week. I know it's not any worse, it's a prettier drive even. But it's clear that I can't slowly ease into it, and I have to just rip off the band-aid because they are straight up just wrong and trying to convince me that I don't know what I'm talking about. So I say, I've already been doing it for a week. We moved in last weekend. They are just dumbfounded. Lol. Like, I thought you guys said you weren't planning on changing my mind, so why so surprised that I just went ahead and made my choice? My mom starts crying. My dad keeps saying, you fucked up, kid. It's about 10 p.m. at this point, so now that they know I have a slightly longer drive home, they are kind of sweeping me out the door so I can get home before it gets too much later. My mom gives me this big sobbing hug. At this point, I've run out of tears. I was crying throughout the entire conversation, but at this point was just over the bullshit. My dad, who rarely even tells me that he loves me, gives me this awkward, desperate hug too that just kind of makes me roll my eyes. I get in the car and drive home just totally exhausted and confused. Truthfully, they did a good job of, again, making me question my own thoughts and choices. But I get home and just start spilling everything that they said to my BF. He's not surprised, but as I said in my last post, he remains Swiss in all of this and doesn't say anything shitty about them. He just holds me close and lets me vent. Something else that came up during our lovely 3-hour discussion was my anxiety. I have previously shared with them that I think they are a huge source of it, and had been throughout my childhood as well. Prior discussions have always gone nowhere. You had it so easy, we don't ask that much of you, etc. Clearly not listening to me. So I brought it up again in this discussion, how my parents are a huge source of anxiety, and my BF is a calm rock in all of it, that I'm so grateful he's such a great partner. My dad screams at me how he never laid a effing hand on me, and how he was physically disciplined as a child, and that he can't own that he and they could have anything to do with my being an anxious person. He even says, you need fucking therapy. Like, yes, Dad, thank you, I sure do, and also F you. Also said, I have a hard time swallowing that I had anything to do with your anxiety. You're going to have to work out those demons with yourself. All of this to say, the answer you've all waited for is that I moved in with my BF, I am keeping mom and dad at arm's length, and also I have started therapy. It's 26 years of emotional abuse and narcissism to unpack and learn from, but I'm working through it. The guilt tripping and lack of boundaries is so real and has been so real for forever. I know my situation isn't as bad as others and is also worse than others, but for all of you out there in similar situations, seek therapy. It is a really good thing. There's so much behavior to unlearn and grow from. Even if you don't think it's that bad and that you're doing fine, see a therapist if you can. Your abusers have learned behavior too. They have learned how to get to you and how to manipulate you, whether it's vindictive or not. They have learned how to make you do what they want and think what they think, and then they know how to make you feel horrible about doing anything differently. Seek counsel in family and friends whose advice you trust, seek therapy, and above all, trust yourself. My wife cheated on me with a guy she met at the gym. She's now pregnant and we don't know who the father is. My wife is 30 years old and she's always worked out and been in shape, but lately I feel like it's becoming excessive. She used to regularly work out at a gym when she was in college. At some point, she stopped going to the gym, I think lately just due to her schedule, and preferred to work out at home or go for runs outside. About 18 months ago, she announced she was going to get back into the habit of going to the gym. She now had a job where she's able to make more time for it. It started off normal, but slowly became more and more frequent. She signed up for classes on the weekend, both days. She started going to the gym every day, then it became the morning before work, and then again later in the evening. Every single day, if she's stressed, she goes to the gym, experience some sort of life crisis. She immediately heads to the gym. We have an argument, runs to the gym. She's 4 months pregnant right now. I'm kind of surprised we even had time to make a kid. I understand that it's safe for her to work out, especially since she was already in the habit of doing it before she got pregnant. But the intensity is not slowing down. If she misses one of her normal gym sessions, she becomes so irritable, like a junkie not getting her fix. It's just bizarre. Truly a case of too much of a good thing. Of course she gets upset when I voice that I feel it's becoming an unhealthy obsession, and that I miss spending time with her because she's there so much. She has all of these friends and this whole circle of people there that she seems to prefer spending time with over me. Why don't we work out together at the gym? The gym is her time, she says. This isn't a case of me feeling insecure because she's in great physical shape and I'm a fat slob. I work out and am in shape. My job really requires me to stay in shape, so I can't let myself go if I want to. I genuinely feel her gym habits are unhealthy. She's over-exercising, for one. There is such a thing. But worse than that, I feel it's becoming a way for her to escape everything else in her life. She never actually fixed anything that goes wrong in her life. She just runs off to the gym to get some sort of mood boost, and then that's it. She also never gets anything else done in a practical sense because how can she when she's at the gym so often? It's to the point where I have to do every chore, and if food is getting made, I'm going to have to do it. I don't expect her to do all of those things, but it should at least be a shared effort. People we know have even commented about it to me. They've said things about how she seems different, how she sure is at the gym a lot, and many of her friends and family barely see her anymore. Some have even suggested she's having an affair with somebody there. Please tell me that this doesn't sound normal to you.
She insists this is perfectly normal.
Update 1. I posted not very long ago about my wife's addiction to the gym. A compulsion, if you will. She spends most of her free time there. She often goes twice a day, and sometimes even 3 times if we have a fight at night and she needs to run off instead of actually talking to me. She won't let me go to her gym, and she refuses to go to mine. Her gym is her place, my gym is my place, and that's just the way it has to be according to her. I'd love to have her come along with me. I've invited her multiple times. She's about 18 weeks pregnant right now. This is our first baby. She worked out like crazy prior to the pregnancy, and she continues to just as hard now. I truly didn't think she was cheating on me. People suggested it in the last part, and I laughed. You can tell she's at the gym a lot, she's in great shape, so she's obviously going there. I felt really confident about the cheating issue, and when I posted 9 days ago, I wasn't even considering cheating. I'm embarrassed to admit that after reading a lot of the comments on my last post, I thought maybe I was being overly confident about her fidelity. She usually always has her phone on her, but she left it in the kitchen counter, and as stupid as I felt, I decided to do a quick swipe through her texts. She had a current text conversation going on with a guy. I recognized the name. The same name of a guy from the gym she mentions a lot. She's friends with a lot of people there, went to one of their weddings last fall. I wasn't too terribly concerned until I started reading the texts. Never wanted to know what the guy's sausage looked like, but I know now. She was only out of the room for literally about a minute or two, so I had to scroll fast. I was furious. She started yelling at me for looking at her phone. I told her she's acting so weird and the gym obsession was really bothering me, so I just decided to look and was ashamed that I did, but I thought I'd find nothing all. She said, it's nothing. Didn't look like nothing to me. She sure seemed pretty interested in this nothing. I wanted to know if she's been fudging him. For how long? She kept saying no. I left the house because I was so furious, but not before I slammed her phone on the ground and shattered it. She was calling me all sorts of names for breaking her phone. She hit me on the back as hard as she could. I left. Went to my brother's house. My brother and sister-in-law were shocked. Although my sister-in-law was one of the most vocal ones about my wife's gym obsession being weird and bringing it up to me constantly. I went home. She was in bed crying. She obviously couldn't call me or anyone else for that matter. She was laying it on thick. I don't know if you'd ever come home. Give me a break. I took her phone to get repaired tonight. She doesn't deserve it, but I still feel like an ass breaking her phone. I still don't know how deep it goes. She won't admit to anything beyond what I saw. Was it just messages and pictures or more? I'm convinced it was a lot more, but she refuses to hand over her phone and is now trying to act like I'm this terrible monster who is abusing her because I broke her phone. Not my proudest moment, but I honestly wanted to body slam her after she punched me. I have never and would never actually touch her like that. Update 2. Today my wife asked me to stay home from work so we could talk. She laid in bed all day yesterday trying to get me to feel sorry for her, but I paid absolutely no attention to her and ended up leaving the house to go to my family's Super Bowl party. I wasn't in the mood to go, but I wasn't going to sit at home with her. It really bothered her that I left. She kept texting me things like, who just leaves like that? When something like this is happening, who is that cold and callous that they just leave to go to a party? I stayed home today to talk to her. She was full of tears. She's so sorry. According to her, she really was going to the gym twice a day because she likes going there. That's where her friends are. Makes her feel good. It's fun for her. She met this guy there and he started flirting with her. Everyone likes him. He's one of the most popular guys there. I didn't realize there were popular people at gyms. She admitted that she flirted back but didn't mean anything by it. She didn't reciprocate very much at first, but he gave her butterflies, and she just found herself flirting back without thinking. She said it felt like when she had a crush on somebody when she was in school when she was younger. They started texting. At first it was just friendly and nothing sexual for several months, but she'd feel giddy every time she got a message from him. She was really attracted to him, but told him that she was married, and there could never actually be anything between them. According to her, he kept flirting with her anyway and said, "Sure, we won't cross the line." Until they did cross the line. She said she had tried to resist it for a while, but then one day they kissed. She admitted to enjoying it, but also feeling that it was wrong. She must not have felt that bad because she slept with him for the first time later that night. She described it like falling in love with somebody for the first time. All she could think about was him. Is she in love with him? She doesn't know. Is this baby mine? She thinks so, but there's always a small chance it could be his. He always uses protection, so she doesn't think it's his baby, but they were sleeping together at the time she got pregnant. She loves me. She can't help that there's just this huge spark between the two of them. She doesn't know if she loves him. She doesn't know if the baby is mine. She doesn't know why she did this. She doesn't know what she thinks we should do. The nail in the coffin is when she said, "You would really leave me if it's not your baby, would you?" She had the balls to ask me that. I told her of course I'm leaving her and I wouldn't raise another man's child. She seemed shocked. She said, "Really? With everything we have and all our history, you wouldn't even consider it? She can't be serious. I told her no, I would never consider it. She agreed to get a DNA test. She tearfully agreed, like I'm supposed to feel sorry for her about it. I don't know who this woman is. She was crying the whole time, but not tears of an ashamed or sorry person. They were tears for herself and meant to try to make me feel bad. Feel bad for what? That her heart is apparently so torn? Update 3. My life has been reduced to a trashy daytime talk show. The woman who was once my wife, who I considered a classy woman, has turned into complete trailer trash. Today, she announced that she's moving in with her affair partner from the gym. She's pregnant, might be his kid, might be mine. She's too embarrassed to go get blood drawn for a paternity test. She spent about a week trying to get my attention, to get me to talk to her, to get me to beg her to be mine. I didn't fall for any of it. I've largely been ignoring her, and when we have to speak, I keep it very brief. We've been living together this whole time, but I'm in a different room now and functioning separate from her in all ways. So, her pouting and trying to get me to pay attention to her and give her a gold star for not going to the gym for 5 days in a row didn't work. Today, she texted me to say she is moving in with him. Somehow I still care about this person. I've already met with a lawyer, though. I can care about her as a human being and possible mother of my child without being married to her. Still, it stung to hear her say she was going to be with him. I told her it wasn't a smart move to leave the house. I've even told her she should probably meet with a lawyer. She doesn't care about anything I have to say. I don't think she needs to move in with anybody. I actually feel bad for her that she can't just be on her own. I asked her if he actually knew she was pregnant and wanted to know what story she's been telling him this whole time. She said he knows and he doesn't care if it's my baby. He loves her and wants to be with her. Bizarre. You can't find anyone else? Somebody who isn't a married pregnant woman? Why would you take that on? Doesn't make sense to me. He's scum, but he's good-looking scum, who apparently is gainfully employed and owns his own home, so you can't tell me that my married pregnant wife is your only option here. I just can't imagine being a single guy like that and wanting to put up with this baggage when I could have other options. And if this really is my baby, then what? They'll live with my wife and this weasel 50% of the time? I don't know how my life turned into this mess. And she thinks it's embarrassing to have to go get blood drawn? Update, my wife has agreed to a paternity test. My wife moved in with her AP last weekend. She didn't take very much at all. Most of her stuff is still in our house. I still get the feeling she was just waiting for me to beg her to come home, but I didn't reach out to her at all after she left. It was a strange mixture of relief, anger, and sadness. I don't think I ate at all until last night. Just never felt hungry. Drank a little too much. But I'm fine. I'm posting this update because I've received a ton of messages from people, and honestly, it's emotionally draining to respond to each one and to have to type the same stuff out. I just don't feel like talking about her that much. So this morning she texted me to say her AP wants to get a DNA test done, so she's going to do it. Look at that. Didn't matter when I wanted one, but now that he has requested it, she suddenly thinks it's a great idea. She asked if I wanted to submit a sample because it'll be cheaper to have 2 dads tested as part of one package. I don't even care about the cost at this point, I just want an answer. I don't have to see or interact with them at all. I just have to make my own appointment with the lab to get my cheek swabbed. So this Saturday I'm going to do that, and we should have the results within a week. I'll take what I can get at this point because it's better than her dragging this out for another 20 weeks. So that's it. I'm fine. I'm going to work every day, trying to function. Just feel stuck in limbo. I miss her. Honestly, I hate that she's there with him. It makes me sick. Part of me does want to beg her to come home. It'll be even worse if I find out that it's my baby and she's there with him, unless he drops her at that news. I won't let myself beg her. I won't play any of those games with her. Update 4. My wife has been having an affair with a guy she met at the gym for at least nearly a year. She's around 22 weeks pregnant right now. She was somewhere around 17 weeks when I discovered she was cheating. She maintained that she was positive I was the father, but then refused to get a paternity test done to ease my mind. We recently had a paternity test done, at the request of her affair partner, and it proves the baby is mine. It's been very mixed emotions for me, very up and down. Originally, I thought I just wanted to be completely done with her and not have any lifelong ties in the form of a full-blown human being we shared. But I was sort of happy or relieved when I got the results. I'd already had it in my mind that I was going to be a father for months before I found out she was cheating. Sometimes I just have moments where I can't believe this is my life, that this is the situation that my kid will be born into, and I hate her for it. She's still living with him. All of her belongings are still here in our house. I refuse to do the work of packing everything up for her. She doesn't seem concerned about taking any her things, beyond the essentials. After we got the news that I'm the baby's father, she texted me to say she's glad I'm the father and that she knows I'll be a great dad. She was texting me new baby name ideas last night. She's tried calling, but I ignore the calls. I only speak with her via text. This morning, she asked if she could come by and get a few things. I told her it was fine, as I've been advised by my lawyer to not prevent her entry from the home, but I told her that he better not be with her. So who shows up with her? The scumbag boyfriend. He walks right on into the house behind her like it's no big deal. She ran upstairs to get the stuff she wanted, and he and I were just left standing there in the living room. He told me it wasn't her fault that he was there. She told him I didn't want come, but he forced his way along. He wanted to talk to me, supposedly, to tell me he understand how I must be feeling. No, you don't know. He told me he knows I probably don't believe him, but he genuinely loves her and knew he probably wasn't the father. He accepts it and then tried to assure me he won't try to take my place with the baby and hopes we can just get along since we're both going to be in her life now. He promises that she's fine, he's looking after her. I told him that I couldn't for the life of me imagine what he wanted with a pregnant woman who is having another man's child, that I found it weird. Then I told him if he didn't get out of my house, I'd punch him. I went upstairs and she was trying to find somebody things in the bathroom. I got mad, asked her why she brought him along, and told her I find it really strange that he still wants to be with her now that he knows he has nothing to do with this baby, and that I refuse to let him have anything to do with my child. She said he talked her into coming, and she's sorry and never meant for any of this to happen, but she's in love with him now. He is supposedly what 30-year-old her is looking for, not me. She's setting up a nursery in his house, and I can set one up at my house, and she has no intention of trying to get full custody or anything like that. She doesn't want to keep me from being involved in my child's life. How generous of her. She went back downstairs, and I followed her, and he was still standing there in the living room, and I just walked up to him and punched him. He stumped back and fell into a table. She yelled, "What the fuck?" and ran over to him. I don't even care at this point. As if he's going to call the cops? He deserved it, and it wouldn't have happened had he just left like I told him to. Several hours later, she texted me to say she was sorry about today. He really meant what he said, and he's actually a good guy, and he cares about her, and he respects me. WTF? He respects me? He was screwing my wife in the gym locker room. I was like, you can't be serious. She said, fine, I'm trying to have a mature conversation about this. I can't help that we fell in love. Believe it or not, I'm not trying to hurt you, and I want everything to be amicable. This guy stole my wife, and he's stealing my kid, too. Sure, I'm the actual father, but now they're setting up a nursery together in his house? I've tried to not feel jealous or sad. I've tried to maintain the thought that he's the trash man who picked up my garbage. Sometimes I feel that way, but the truth is that I loved her, and still love her. I don't want to stay married to her on principle alone, but this is devastating to me. Final update. My wife is basically 26 weeks pregnant now. There actually hasn't been much drama with her and her AP. I was away for a long weekend last week, and it was nice to just get away from home for a while. Only really annoying thing that's happened is that I told her I'm being in the delivery room, not him. After everything she's done, she owes me that. It's not his baby. He has no right or reason to be there. I will not be the one waiting outside when my kid is being born. She said yeah, she agreed, and she never planned to have him in there with her. I asked her if she'd told him that, and she said no. I told her to tell him he'll have no part in it. Well, she told him, and apparently he didn't like that, and he started trying to convince her why he should be there. Next thing I know, she's telling me that he really wants to be there, and she's the one giving birth, so she should be able to say who she wants there and she wants him there. I suppose he'll start making name suggestions soon, and we'll try to overrule names we've had picked out for our future kids for years. We've talked a little bit, and she told me I can have our house and the dog in our divorce. I'm requesting that we sell the house and split the profit. I already that written in the paperwork. I'm not buying her out of our house, a house that I've made all the payments on anyway. I have a much better credit score than her and less debt. I compromised a lot because she liked this house. I'd rather be able to get my own place based just on what I want and with no reminders of her. And there was already no way she was getting the dog. I already had proof that I owned him, though, so she wouldn't really stand a chance of having a court award the dog to her. It's the one thing I told my lawyer I wanted above everything else, not including any custody issues surrounding my actual human child. Honestly, her AP can have her, but he will never ever have my dog. Not to mention my dog is 100 times more loyal than my wife, and some might even say better looking too. So with the idea I won't be living here in this house for much longer after the baby is born, if everything moves quickly, I decided I will still prepare a nursery here anyway, in case anyone wants to try to accuse me of not being invested prepared for fatherhood. I'm trying to look at the positives. It doesn't matter what colors she likes or what themes. I can do whatever I want. Honestly, we've been together for so long and have lived together for most of our adult lives. It's sort of nice not living with somebody, but sort of lonely too. I have friends and family, but it's hard to feel in the mood to go out or hang out with people too often. They always ask me about everything that's going on, and it's just like, I'm tired of that being the topic of conversation. I got a promotion at work, which financially would have been better had it happened after the divorce, but I'll take what I can get. I feel like I'm living in this limbo right now, and a lot of what I do is always framed around, how will this affect me in the divorce? Admittedly, I spy on them on social media sometimes. Guess I'm hoping to see he's been in a motorcycle accident or something now that the weather is nicer. Hasn't happened yet, but he's starting a new company, and once that's up and running, I can always get all my friends and family to leave 1-star reviews everywhere. Have to find ways to have a little fun. Adding something I forgot. She told her family that we've split up and that she's with this other guy now. Her sister reached out to me to say how sorry she was. Her sister is a dumbass, that sort of thing. She told me that my wife was complaining about her AP. The sex is over when he's done, and apparently he's really selfish with sex. He doesn't do extra little things for her that she's used to me doing, like clearing the snow off her car in the morning and heating it up, or offering to make her food after a long day. He doesn't speak her love language, and he hangs out with his friends too much. This made me so happy to hear. She's secretly miserable, and I find that absolutely delightful.
My boyfriend is going to move in with me, but his mom is so clingy and wants to come too. What should I do? I, 23 female, have been in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend, 25 male, for 4 years. He is my best friend and I truly love him. I know that by even asking this, I probably already know my answer, but I am having a tough time accepting it. Should I end my relationship, or continue it and allow my boyfriend to move to my state with his family? He is planning on moving here in April with his parents, and I don't have much time left to make a decision. I am feeling lots of doubt despite my feelings for him. I am concerned about his mom, 49F. I have so many long stories I could share, but I really will try to keep it short. I have noticed so many red flags, but because we are in a long-distance relationship, I can forgive them once I get home and am away from her. Since I only visit for a week about every other month, I feel I do not even know half of what is to come in the future if I marry into this family. For the short periods of time that I have been in person with his family, I always have several experiences that cause me to feel doubt. But everything else about him is so amazing to me that I can forgive them once I am home. Soon, that will not be the case if they move to my state. He originally was going to move here on his own, but without speaking to me about it, planned for his family to come as well. This did not initially upset me so much at first because I assumed his family would probably follow eventually. He is an only child. Up until now, I had not thought a lot about what it would be like for them to be here too. I only imagined him. I get along with his mom because I am a meek person. She is extremely hot-headed, pushy, and overbearing. I do not enjoy being around her, and she makes me feel exhausted. There have been many things she has said to me that have been left-handed comments, but I have ignored them and always remained respectful to her. I don't like confrontation, but she is "if you have a problem with me, say it to my face" sort of person. We are really close right now, but I genuinely believe that if I had just a little more of a backbone, she would hate me. I know that makes me sound so insincere, but I just wanted to build a good relationship with her. She cannot take no for an answer, and I am so bad at saying no. I will say no to her a million times, and she does not give up. She will just do what she wants. My boyfriend and his mom are extremely close. His biological father left when he was around 3 and his mom remarried when he was 5. His stepdad, 56M, is like a real father to him, and they get along very well. His mom and dad have a healthy relationship, and that makes me happy. His mom has pulled me aside multiple times throughout my visits to tell me that her son is number one in her life, even before her husband. She pulls me aside very often to make comments like that. She also often texts me about how sweet and amazing he is. He lives with his parents right now because he wants to save up to move in with me. He has lived apart from his parents for 2 years in the past in an apartment that was less than 5 minutes from their house. When he moved out, his mom cried uncontrollably for days. His mom and dad both constantly dote on him. When I am visiting, they knock on his door several times a day to talk to us. When I am not there, they enter his room constantly without knocking when we are on a phone call together. It is more his mom than his dad, but it can be his dad sometimes. His mom will enter his room and sit on his bed and just listen to our conversation. She will complain that he does not spend time with her or eat with her anymore. Since I am not there in person, he and his mom go out one-on-one together several times a week for meals. This does not bother me because I also like spending time with my mom, but for her to whine about him not doing it enough is concerning because to me, it is more than enough already. Additionally to this, she is constantly texting and calling him while we are together. I only get to see him in person every so often, so it makes me sad when she calls him and they talk on the phone for a while when they live together and get to see each other all of the time. He tells her everything that we do each day, all of our plans, sends pictures of our food, and their messages are filled with heart emojis. This did not bother me initially because I am glad he has a good relationship with her, but since then, so much has built up and caused me more concern for how involved she is in his life. I do not know how much he texts her when I am not there, but she calls him every day that he drives to work. She has convinced him that he is 6" tall and repeatedly comments on how tall he is. I don't want to burst his bubble because he genuinely believes that he is that tall, but he is probably more like 5 feet 9 inches. I don't care how tall he is perfect to me, But it's strange how his mom romanticizes his height. Every time I visit, at least once, she rubs his arms and goes on and on about how amazing and big his muscles are. She snuggles up against him when we are on the couch, and they always hug when we leave them to go to bed. Maybe this is normal. My parents are not very physically affectionate. I will say that he is independent. He works hard and can cook, clean, and do errands for himself. His mom does currently do his laundry and help with the cleaning and cooking sometimes, but he does help out, and I know he is capable of doing these chores on his own if she wasn't around. For the majority of our relationship, every time I would visit, we would eat just about every dinner with his parents, take his mom out for lunch at least once, and spend the evening watching movies or just talking to them. If we did something alone, when we got back home he would knock on their bedroom door and go into their room and talk to them for at least 30 minutes. I know that doesn't sound long, but that time adds up when you only see your partner for a bit every few months. When he visits me, we sometimes do not eat a single meal with my family at all because I want to spend as much alone time with him as possible. If I said anything about not wanting to spend so much time with his parents, he would get sad and tell me they miss me as much as he misses me when I am gone. We have gone on several trips out of town with his family where we would spend every waking moment with them. For our 3-year anniversary, we went on a 7-day cruise with his parents. After about 2 days, I asked him if we could just do one thing together alone without them. He reluctantly agreed, and we planned to go get a late-night snack. When the time finally came, his mom asked if she could join us because her husband wanted to gamble that night. My boyfriend said yes, and I was visibly annoyed, which caused him to be annoyed with me. He told me that my behavior was unbelievable. After we ate with his mom and parted ways with her, I expressed my annoyance to my boyfriend. He threw a fit and stormed off to sit somewhere on his own. For the rest of the trip he gave me the cold shoulder. I could not wait to get off that boat and go home. We had a serious talk after this, and since then, we spend a good bit less time with them during my visits. Now, if I am there for a week, we usually only spend about 2 to 3 dinners with them, but still spend a lot of time in their room or his room talking. Since we have decreased the time we spent with them, his mother has increasingly gotten more passive-aggressive towards me. She makes left-handed comments about my appearance and qualities, and then she tells me, "You can get away with saying anything if you say it with a smile." They are too minor to truly address or complain about, but it makes me feel insecure. My greatest concern came during my most recent visit. It truly gave me a reality check. We went out to dinner with his parents, and his mom tells me that we need to have a serious talk. I assume it is about them moving to my state, and they want to make sure that I am truly serious about being with their son. Instead, they brought up my older brother. At the dinner, his parents say that they are extremely concerned with my brother, and how he treats my boyfriend. I am a little shocked because I did not see it as a big deal since my brother is not a big part of my life. This conversation went on for a long time. They bashed my brother and the way my parents raised him. They said if my brother was rude when they were around, they would address it immediately and ask what his problem is. I think I must have been visibly scared because his dad began emphasizing that they did not hate my brother, but were concerned as parents. My brother really has not done anything that bad to my boyfriend other than not greet him when he visits. They acted like my brother was going to be his biggest bully, and they had to stand up for their son. I just feel like he is too old to have his parents so defensive and worried about something like this. I also feel like this will just start a huge fight between our families if they make a big scene about my brother. His mom tells me that I need to stand up for my boyfriend no matter what, because at the end of the day, he is all I will have left when my parents pass away. I feel slightly wrong because I have spoken to my brother about his behavior a few times, and so has my mom and other family members. I may have not stood up to him directly at the moment, but I am not comfortable around him, so it is hard. Once the conversation about that ended, his mom turned to me and began asking about my future plans. She does not look at my boyfriend at all, only to me. She asks about when we want to move out together, get married, have kids. I tell her I am not sure if I want kids and I want to be financially stable, have a solid job, and marriage before doing that. She tells me that I should want to have kids now and live day by day instead of worrying about having an established plan. She tells me that my boyfriend's biological father did not want kids until they were established adults either, but she wanted kids, so she got pregnant. I thought this was crazy because they were married in their early 20s, he expressed he did not want kids yet, and she still purposely got pregnant. She often acts like a victim because my boyfriend's biological father left her, and my boyfriend constantly tells me he feels so sorry for her, and that she is the strongest woman that he knows. She proceeds to tell me that she wants to be a young grandma, and wants me to have children ASAP. She says that she does not want to look old in her pictures with her grandkids. She made the whole process of us having kids seem like it was all about her. Months ago, I had told her I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. If I had kids, and she told me that I should want to work and provide for myself, not rely on anyone. My boyfriend told me that I should not worry about being a stay-at-home mom because I can work while his mom takes care of our kids. I only want kids if me and my partner can afford for me to be a stay-at-home mom. I know that is a lot to ask for in this economy, but if that can happen, then I simply will not plan on having kids. I am happy to work and I love my job, but if I do have kids, I would like to care for them at home until they are older. My boyfriend's mom is very against this idea. I think maybe because she wants to be the primary caregiver. But I don't really want such a hot-headed, short-tempered person raising my kids, as awful as that sounds. I don't even have kids yet, and I'm worried. His mother did multiple things on this trip that made me uncomfortable. I won't get into all of them. One thing was she took something I had just bought and did something with it that I had asked her not to. I did not express discomfort to her, but I spoke to my boyfriend in private afterwards. It truly was not too big of a deal, but I wanted him to know that I didn't like it. He completely shut down and got defensive. We barely spoke for the rest of the day and went to bed mad at each other. My boyfriend and I have also been planning on going to a concert together once he moves here, and his mom has already invited herself to that. Since I have gotten home from my last trip, I have taken this concern very seriously, and sat down and told my boyfriend how I truly feel about his mom. The first conversation, he did not understand why I was upset. Eventually, he saw how serious I was. I was brutally honest and told him I was considering pulling out of the relationship if things did not get better. He promised that he would do so much better and apologize for everything. He assured me that he would set boundaries and do anything he had to. I told him I could not know for sure if that was possible before they moved here, so I was still doubtful about continuing the relationship. His solution was that he would move to my state first without them. He brings up this idea to his mom while they are out having dinner one-on-one, as they do quite often. She says it has always been the three of them, her husband, and her son, so that she would have to follow within 2 to 3 months after he moved if he moved here alone. She also asked him, "What if I want to move there?" As in, she would move there with or without his permission as soon as she wants. The conversation did not go anywhere past this. He did not tell his mom, "No, we will need more time than 2 to 3 months. Or say it cannot just be the three of us forever once I am an adult and start my own family." Nothing. He did not even attempt to set a single boundary. He saw her get teary-eyed and could not do it. I don't want to separate him from his mother or force a wedge between their relationship, but I don't think she can let go, and he is too nice to set boundaries. And this conversation happened hours after I told him I would pull out of the relationship if he could not prove to me that he could set boundaries. I believe she will resent me for stealing her son from her or my boyfriend, and I will constantly be fighting about his mother. My heart tells me that that dinner is all I need to know about his ability to make boundaries. My biggest concern is that he cannot take any criticism about his mom. She has no boundaries, invites herself to everything, has an opinion about many personal things within our relationship, and it bothers me. I wish I could share every specific story about how she has acted/things she has said, but it would be a book. And that is considering that I only see her maybe 6 to 8 weeks of the year. Soon it will be forever. Is it worth having the man of my dreams that comes in a package deal with his mother? I truly believe he will not be able to set up the boundaries that I am comfortable with. I am so happy with him, but I know I cannot be happy with her. I guess I already know my answer, but I am so heartbroken and feel like a huge jerk. I wish I could accept and love his mother, but I am not sure that I can. Their relationship is far too close, and she is unpleasant to be around. I don't want my future to be controlled by her. He says he can set boundaries and he is willing to do anything to stay with me, but their conversation about him moving on his own proved to me otherwise. Plus, it was only a month ago when he would not speak to me for an entire day because I expressed discomfort to him in private about something his mom did. He is planning to move here at the end of April, so I do not have much time to make my decision and put a halt to it. Maybe she does not sound that bad, but I am preparing for the worst already because I truly do not know what it will be like when we are no longer long distance. I do not want to regret having them uproot their lives and move across the country only to end up wishing they were not here. I truly do not think I could ever find another boyfriend as loyal, thoughtful, and selfless as my boyfriend. He is my best friend and my whole life. But his relationship to his mother has caused me to feel like this may not be right. Update. I ended the relationship almost 3 weeks ago now. I feel a huge weight off my chest. I feel extremely sad, but since our relationship was long distance, not much about my daily life has changed. I have not completely cut him off yet, but we still do text about 1 to 2 times a day. He was mad and the breakup call took about 3 hours. He asked me why he wasn't worth taking the risk for. I do feel like a heartless jerk, but I feel confident that I made the right decision. I had felt so anxious prior to this, and my heart is completely at ease. He's tried to convince me to reconsider multiple times, but I feel completely confident. It was one of the hardest things I've pushed myself to do within a relationship, and I did not think I would be able to do it. But I did. I really want to reply to every single comment because they all filled me with so much assurance and confidence in my decision. I still read through them regularly, and I am so thankful to everyone who took the time to read through my situation and type a reply to me. Thank you. My landlord kicked me out and refused to give me back my security deposit. I got the last laugh. I had a landlord who was pretty absent. I lived in this building, a high-rise, like 20 stories, for 10 plus years. He, despite living next door to me, was absent and cold personally but cool enough. Rent was good. Our agreement was never bother him about anything unless it's an absolute emergency. Shower head wonky? Go buy a new one. Fridge breaks? Get it fixed, or do just buy a new one. Take it out of what you pay in rent. Lost the receipt, I don't care, I know more or less what a fridge costs, just take it out of rent. Finally his wife decides she wants more rent, wants to rent the place out as an office, not legal, and wants us out ASAP. I agree to move out a month early and get a month's rent back plus deposit. Complete 180 on their part. The place is ruined, can't give you shit until you fix all this stuff. 2 main things. My cats did scratch up the leather legs of the dining table, and the pull-up bar made 2 dents in the door frame of the kitchen, which was quite nice hardwood. They come to me with this list of tons of stuff like, oh, you hang a photo frame here, this tile is slightly chipped. This is the busiest work time of the year for me, but I'm trying to be cooperative. Sure, I got the table legs re-leathered, spackled the photo frame wall hole. Can't do anything about the door frame, take it out of deposit. Patch the tile. Like dozens of little everyday wear-enter things. Like you want me to change the window screens? These are all new screens and in nicer shape than when I moved in. But I did them all, I trusted the guy. Gotta get my money. At the end he should have been giving me £2,500. He gave me 5. I still need to use the money to fix all that stuff. If you can't accept the 5, I can't give you anything at all. I was super pissed off but took the 5. Now, people in the building are gossipy. I don't participate, but I did tell this one older lady about my frustration. She told everyone. The wife went from being the star of the mommies group of the building to nobody wanting to talk to her. People shunned the guy too. I originally told them I was planning on moving to another city, but an opportunity came up and I ended up renting a similar unit in the same building. So they thought they could just screw me over and not have to see me, but now they still did. Often. A year later the office calls me with some question about how to do something with the floor heating. I go, door frame is not fixed, still has dents. I call the guy like, what the hell, man? And he tells me to mind my own business. 5 years later, I see the light at my old place is still on at 3 a.m. Huh, that's odd. I go to check, the door is open, and the place is just trashed, ruined. Cabinets broken, stuff on the walls, lazy landlord, and the dents on the kitchen door frame are still there. So the guy never fixed anything, just kept my money. By this time smartphones were popular, and we had a chat group for the whole building, so about 500 people. I took pictures and posted everything. Apparently he had also nicked these people's deposit, and there was a huge ruckus when they trashed the place. Cops called. All these people chime in with complaints and pictures. People smoking in the hallways, leaving leaky rubbish outside the front door, videos of people using foul language in front of children, dirty footprints. He got fined a lot for 1, creating a public disturbance 2, degrading the quality of the living space 3, illegally renting a residence as an office, and to top it off the building management wouldn't grant him permission to have workers in to fix the place, so it sat there empty for like 6 months. The fines were big too. Take 1.5 months rent from me, lose a year's rent. Suck it, bro. My entitled parents demand I give up on my dreams and become my sister's nanny. I'm writing this from a place of pure catharsis, so please bear with me. Let's dive right into the twisted tale of my entitled parents, their bizarre demands, and how I barely survived their insanity. So, a bit of background, I'm 26F, and I'm the oldest of 3 kids. Growing up, my parents were always a bit on the controlling side. I used to think it was just tough love, but as I got older, I realized it was way more sinister. They were entitled, manipulative, and never, ever took no for an answer. My siblings, 22M and 19F, had it just as bad, but for some reason, I always seemed to be the primary target of their entitlement. This all started a couple of years ago when I had just graduated from college. I had finally landed my dream job in another city, about a 5-hour drive from where my parents lived. I was over the moon. The job paid well, I had a nice apartment lined up, and it was my chance to finally live my life on my own terms. Or so I thought. As soon as I told my parents about my new job and my plans to move, they flipped out. They couldn't understand why I wanted to leave, even though I'd explained it to them a million times. They thought I should stay home and help out with the family, even though both of my siblings were perfectly capable of taking care of themselves. But the worst part was, they seemed to think I owed them something just because they raised me. My mom, Em, and dad, Ed, sat me down for the talk the night before I was supposed to leave. I'll never forget it. Em, you're abandoning us, you know that, right? Ed, after everything we've done for you, you just leave? Who's going to help with your brother and sister? Me. Mom, Dad, I love you, but I need to live my own life. I have a job now, and I need to take it. Em, a job? What about family? We're your family. Ed, we sacrificed so much for you, and this is how you repay us? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like they had completely forgotten that I was an adult with my own aspirations. But I held my ground. I told them that I appreciated everything they had done for me, but it was time for me to move on. They didn't take it well. Fast forward to a few months later. I was settling into my new job and apartment, loving my newfound independence, when the calls started. At first, it was just once a week, then it became daily. They'd call me at all hours, demanding that I come home for this or that. It was always something urgent or important, but it was never anything that couldn't be handled without me. The breaking point came when they called me one night, insisting that I come home immediately because my sister, let's call her Jane, was having a meltdown over a college assignment. Yes, you read that right. A college assignment. I told them that Jane was old enough to handle her own schoolwork, and I couldn't just drop everything and come running every time there was a minor crisis. They didn't take it well. Again. Em, you're being so selfish. Your sister needs you. Ed, you think you're better than us just because you have a job in the city? Me. No, I just think Jane needs to learn to handle her own problems. I can't always be there to fix everything. Em, if you don't come home right now, don't bother coming home for the holidays. That hit me hard. Despite everything, I still wanted to be part of the family. But I knew I couldn't give in to their ridiculous demands. So I stood my ground and said I wouldn't be coming home. They hung up on me. The holidays came and went without a word from my parents. It was tough, but I had my friends, and I was determined to build my own life. Then, just when I thought things had finally calmed down, the next bomb dropped. One day, out of the blue, my parents showed up at my apartment. No warning, no heads up, just a knock on the door, and there they were. I was shocked, to say the least. Me. Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? Em, we need to talk. Ed, it's about Jane. They pushed their way inside before I could say anything else. I didn't know what to do, so I just let them in and sat down, bracing myself for whatever was coming. Em, Jane needs help, and we can't do it alone. Ed, we want you to come home and be her nanny. I stared at them, speechless. They couldn't be serious. But they were. They actually wanted me to quit my job, move back home, and be my sister's nanny. Jane was 19 and in college, for crying out loud. Me. I can't believe you're serious. Jane doesn't need a nanny. She's an adult. Em, she's struggling, and we can't handle it. You need to come home and help her. Ed, we're not asking. We're telling you. That was it. I'd had enough. I stood up and told them they needed to leave. They refused, insisting that I was being selfish and ungrateful. The argument escalated, and I ended up calling the police to have them removed from my apartment. It was humiliating and heartbreaking, but I didn't know what else to do. After that incident, I cut off all contact with my parents. I blocked their numbers and stopped answering their emails. It was painful, but I knew it was the only way I could protect myself from their toxic behavior. Months went by, and I started to feel like I was finally getting my life back on track. Then, one day, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered it. It was my brother Tom. Tom. Hey, it's Tom. Can we talk? Me. Tom? What's going on? Tom, it's about Mom and Dad. They've gotten worse. He went on to explain that after I cut off contact, my parents had become even more controlling and demanding. They were constantly on his and Jane's case, making their lives a living hell. Tom was at his breaking point and didn't know what to do. Tom, I don't know how much longer I can take this. They're driving us crazy. Me. I'm so sorry, Tom. I wish I could help, but I can't go back there. Tom. I know. I just needed someone to talk to. Jane and I are thinking about leaving, too. We talked for a long time, and I did my best to support him and Jane from a distance. It was heartbreaking to hear what they were going through, but I knew I couldn't go back to that toxic environment. A few more months passed, and then I got another call from Tom. This time, he had some good news. He and Jane had both managed to move out and were living together in an apartment not far from me. They were still dealing with the fallout from our parents, but at least they were out of that house. We started rebuilding our relationships slowly but surely. It wasn't easy, but we were determined to support each other and create a healthier dynamic. Meanwhile, my parents continued to spiral. They tried everything to get us back under their control, from guilt trips to threats, but we held our ground. The final straw came when my parents showed up at my workplace, causing a scene and demanding that I come home. I was mortified, and my boss had to call security to escort them out. I knew then that I needed to take legal action to protect myself from their harassment. With the help of a lawyer, I filed for a restraining order against my parents. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I knew it was necessary. When the restraining order was granted, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. In the aftermath, I focused on rebuilding my life and my relationships with Tom and Jane. We supported each other through the healing process and slowly started to find peace. It wasn't easy, and there were plenty of ups and downs, but we were determined to break free from the toxic cycle our parents had created. Update 1. It's been a few weeks since I shared my story, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been happening. First of all, thank you so much for all the support and kind words. It means more than you know. After I got the restraining order, things were quiet for a while. My parents seemed to finally get the message that I wasn't going to be their puppet anymore. Tom and Jane were also doing well, adjusting to their new lives and finding some semblance of normalcy. But then, out of nowhere, my parents found a new way to try and manipulate us. They started spreading rumors around our hometown, telling anyone who would listen that we had abandoned them and that they were the victims. They painted a picture of themselves as loving parents who were just trying to keep their family together, while we were the ungrateful children who had turned our backs on them. At first, I was furious. How dare they try to twist the narrative and make us look like the bad guys? But then I realized that their attempts to smear us were just another desperate ploy to regain control. So, instead of reacting with anger, I decided to take a different approach. I reached out to a few trusted friends and family members back home, people who knew the real story and who had seen firsthand how my parents had treated us. I explained what was happening and asked for their support. To my relief, they were more than willing to stand by us and help set the record straight. We started a quiet but steady campaign to counteract the lies my parents were spreading. It wasn't about stooping to their level or engaging in a public battle. It was about making sure that the truth was out there. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. People started to see through my parents' facade and realized that they were the ones who had been manipulating and controlling us all along. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when a former neighbor, who had moved away years ago, reached out to me. She had heard the rumors and wanted to know what was really going on. After I told her the whole story, she shared her own experiences of witnessing my parents' behavior. She even offered to write a letter in support of us, which we could use if needed. With her letter and the support of our friends and family, we were able to build a solid case against the lies my parents were spreading. It wasn't about legal action this time. It was about reclaiming our narrative and protecting our reputations. And it worked. People started to see my parents for who they really were, and their attempts to control us through manipulation and deceit began to crumble. As for me, Tom, and Jane, we continued to focus on our own healing and growth. We started attending therapy together, which helped us process the trauma of our upbringing and learn healthier ways to communicate and support each other. It wasn't always easy, but we were committed to breaking the cycle of toxicity and creating a better future for ourselves. One of the most rewarding moments came when Jane, who had struggled the most with our parents' control, finally started to come into her own. She found a passion for art and began taking classes at a local community center. Seeing her thrive and discover her own identity was incredibly inspiring and reaffirmed that we had made the right decision to break away from our parents' grip. Tom also found his own path, pursuing a career in social work. He said that our experiences had given him a deep empathy for others who were going through similar struggles, and he wanted to make a difference in their lives. I couldn't have been prouder of him. As for me, I continued to excel in my job and even got promoted to a managerial position. My confidence grew as I realized that I was capable of achieving my dreams without my parents' interference. I also started dating again and met someone who truly understood and supported me. It's been a long and difficult journey, but I finally feel like we're all in a good place. We've learned to set boundaries and prioritize our own well-being, and we're stronger for it. My parents' attempts to control us may have left scars, but we've proven that we can rise above it and create our own happiness. Update 2. It's been a few months since my last update, and I wanted to share some more good news. Life has continued to improve for all of us, and we've made some significant strides in our journey toward healing and independence. First, I want to talk about Jane. She recently had her first art exhibition at a local gallery, and it was a huge success. Seeing her work displayed and appreciated by so many people was an incredibly proud moment for all of us. She's gained a lot of confidence, and is even considering pursuing a degree in fine arts. Her transformation has been nothing short of amazing, and it's a testament to her strength and resilience. Tom has also been doing great. He recently got a job at a non-profit organization that helps at-risk youth, and he's thriving in his new role. His empathy and understanding have made him a valuable asset to the team, and he's already making a significant impact on the lives of the kids he works with. He's found his calling, and it's been wonderful to see him so passionate and fulfilled. As for me, I've continued to advance in my career and have even started taking on some mentorship roles at work. It feels good to be in a position where I can help others grow and succeed. On the personal front, my relationship has been going strong, and we're even talking about moving in together soon. It's been a whirlwind, but I'm excited about the future and the possibilities it holds. We've also made some progress in our relationships with extended family members. After hearing our side of the story and seeing the changes we've made in our lives, many of them have reached out to offer their support. It's been heartwarming to reconnect with family and build new, healthier relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. Of course, not everything has been smooth sailing. My parents have continued to try and meddle in our lives, though their efforts have become less effective over time. We've learned to set firm boundaries and stick to them, which has made a huge difference. They're still struggling to accept that they can no longer control us, but we've made it clear that we won't tolerate their toxic behavior. One unexpected development was when my parents tried to reach out to us through a mediator. They claimed they wanted to apologize and make amends, but we were skeptical. We agreed to a meeting, but only under the condition that it be in a neutral location and with a therapist present to mediate. The meeting was tense and emotional. My parents apologized for their behavior, but it felt more like an attempt to regain control than a genuine expression of remorse. They made promises to change, but we were cautious. We've heard those promises before, and we knew better than to take them at face value. We decided to give them a chance, but with strict boundaries in place. We agreed to limited contact and only in controlled environments, like therapy sessions. It's been a slow process, but we're cautiously optimistic that there might be a path to some form of reconciliation. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight, but we're open to the possibility of healing those relationships, as long as it's on our terms. In the meantime, we continue to focus on our own growth and happiness. We've learned that we can't change the past, but we can control our future. And we're determined to make that future bright and fulfilling, free from the shadows of our parents' control. Final update. I wanted to share one last update on our journey. It's been a year since my last post, and so much has happened since then. We've faced challenges, celebrated victories, and learned a lot about ourselves along the way. First, let me start with the most exciting news. Jane has been accepted into a prestigious art school. Her hard work and dedication have paid off, and she's over the moon about this new opportunity. We couldn't be prouder of her, and we're all excited to see where this next chapter takes her. She's truly found her passion, and it's been incredible to watch her grow and thrive. Tom has also continued to excel in his career. He's been promoted to a leadership position at the nonprofit organization, and he's been instrumental in developing new programs to support at-risk youth. His empathy and dedication have made a real difference in the lives of so many kids, and he's found a true sense of purpose in his work. As for me, I've recently been offered a major promotion at my job, and I've accepted it with excitement and a little bit of nervousness. It's a big step up, but I feel ready for the challenge. My relationship is also going strong, and we've decided to take the plunge and move in together. It's been a whirlwind of changes, but all positive ones, and I'm looking forward to what the future holds. Now, regarding our parents. After that initial attempt at reconciliation, things were rocky for a while. We maintained our boundaries and only agreed to meet in therapy sessions. Over time, there were some genuine moments of progress. They started to show signs of understanding the impact of their behavior and seemed to make efforts to change. It's been a slow process, and we're still cautious, but there's been some healing. We've managed to reach a tentative peace with them. It's not perfect, and it never will be, but it's a start. We've learned to accept that they may never fully understand the damage they caused, but we're also determined not to let that define us. We're moving forward with our lives, focusing on our own happiness and well-being. Through all of this, we've learned the importance of setting boundaries and prioritizing our mental health. We've also discovered the strength that comes from supporting each other and standing up for ourselves. It hasn't been easy, but we're stronger and more resilient because of it. To anyone out there dealing with entitled parents or toxic family members, know that you're not alone. It's okay to put yourself first and to create the life you deserve. It's a difficult journey, but it's worth it. And remember, it's never too late to start healing and building a better future. My husband listens outside the bathroom door every time I take a shower to make sure I'm not using my adult toys. He views it as cheating. Like 6 months ago, my husband came bursting into the bathroom to catch me using my special toys in the shower. He threw a hissy fit about it and said that it was, basically, cheating, and guilted me into apologizing and promising not to do it again. The next time we went to use my toy, during special cuddle time as we basically always did, it had stopped working, mysteriously in hindsight. I often used it in the shower, I guess just because that's basically the only time I get to myself. I eventually just turned to using the shower head, and one time he pounded on the door during to ask what I was doing. Again, I didn't really think much of it at the time. Tonight I was showering, and not doing anything else, and when I came out and he was being short and pissy with me. I asked if everything was okay and he says, "So how was your shower?" I said, "Fine." Confused, he goes on to say he knows what I was doing in there, and I responded by asking what he was talking about, to which he replied that every time I shower he sits outside the bathroom door and listens to see if I'm using my toy. I was so shocked I didn't even know what to say. How can I tell him that this is a violation of my privacy and personal space without him feeling like I'm disrespecting him? Update 1. Thank you again for all of your responses. I can't read them all or respond to them all, but I am going to try and answer a handful of the most frequently asked questions here. We got together when I was 17 and got married last September. I am not on birth control, as he says it disrupts your hormones and destroys your body, and I got pregnant around Christmas but miscarried, and he told me that it was because I eat like shit and don't take care of myself. My family does not like him and never has, and his family does not like me and never has. There is no harmony between our families, and I rarely see mine anymore as a result. He is controlling in many aspects of life, which I did not really realize until now. He judges me for what I wear, what I eat, what I read, who I hang out with, what I watch, what I listen to, etc. If ever I was not with him anymore, I have no money and no place to go. I'm graduating university this year, and he owns the house we live in solely in his name. My money is his money. I would have to go back to live with my parents. I did not grow up religious, and we met through mutual friends. We are both from the same hometown, but no longer live there. We're about 6 hours away. This was a mutual decision, however, and was not forced on me by him. If anything, it was more my idea. He has never physically abused me and does not yell or scream. He shuts down when he's angry and will ignore me for days on end while I literally beg him to talk to me. He has never essayed me in any way, and our life in the bedroom is fine, but he is the only person I've had special hugs with, so I don't know. I am going to sit down and talk to him and have my dad on standby, outside the house, to intervene in case he escalates. I am not currently considering divorce and am going to try and work with him. It's not an excuse, but his family is insane and I don't think he knows what he's doing isn't okay. He does track my location through our iPhones, but we have each other's locations and I look at it sometimes if I get home, and he's not there to see where he is or whatever. I've never really viewed it as being invasive. Update 2. Thank you so much to all of the amazing people who commented and reached out. I wasn't able to respond to anywhere near all of them, but I am so grateful to everyone for opening my eyes to how toxic and unhealthy this situation is. As I stated in the last update, I called my dad and basically just explained that we were having some issues, and just to ease my mind I wanted him to come down and be nearby when I talked to my husband. He did not press for more info and told me that he was on his way. He and my mom live 6 hours away, so it's not exactly a very ideal ask, but he didn't even hesitate, which I am grateful for. He arrived Friday night and parked outside our condo, and we agreed that I'd call him and immediately hang up if I needed him to come inside, in case my husband got aggressive or angry. I did not expect him to, since he never has before, but some of the comments made me feel like I'd better be safe rather than sorry. I debated all day Friday about how exactly to approach this situation and how I could trigger this conversation without him shutting down or getting angry. I decided to casually approach the conversation and ask him how he'd feel about me getting another toy, to replace the one that mysteriously broke after he caught me using it in the shower. In response, he asked, "What for?" To which I replied, "Because it feels good." I knew this would be his response, but it was something along the lines of, "What, am I not good enough?" As it usually was in the past. I explained to him that it has nothing to do with him not being good enough, and that special hugs is supposed to be fun and experimental and interesting, and that it was just something that would make it better for both of us. He then suggested that I just wanted it to use on myself, to which I asked if that would be a problem. He told me that I know how he feels about that, and so I asked him why he was bothered by the idea of me masturbating. He got very defensive and asked why I would want that when I could have him, so I asked if he ever felt like he'd rather just pleasure himself rather than going through the motions of having sex. He said no, and that he's not a beta who spends his days stroking when he could be doing anything more productive. I explained to him that that was okay if it was his preference, but that sometimes my egg's usual desires are to pleasure myself versus having X. That's when his same ridiculous argument came out of that being, basically, cheating. Pulling from another commenter, I explained that cheating involves multiple people, and that it is impossible to be cheating if I am alone. He told me to fudge off and go stick the shower head between my legs. I started to get upset and realized that here is when I always back down. I feel the need to apologize and make him feel better. I'd usually have started something and would end up guilt-fudging him because I felt bad, but I didn't. I told him that he made me feel like he was trying to control me and my body, and that I wasn't okay with that. He told me I could go be a fudging 304 somewhere else then, and got up off the couch and ran upstairs. I could hear him slamming my drawers open and acting like he was putting my clothes in a bag. I resisted the urge to run up there after him, and just decided to sit there and see what would happen. Eventually, he came back downstairs and apologized and said that he's very uncomfortable with the idea of me using toys in our home. When I asked him to explain why, he said because it makes him feel unwanted. I told him that this isn't true, and that I do want him, but sometimes I just want that, and he said, "Okay, I guess." I decided to leave it at that for the night, and didn't want to press any further. I told my dad it was okay to go, and that I was so sorry for wasting his time, and he told me he'd be staying the weekend at a hotel just to be safe. Eventually we went up to bed, and I realized if I left it at that it would just get swept under the rug like it always does. I'd go on putting up with this until it came full circle again, and I was not going to do that to myself. I decided to ask him about him telling me that he listened to me when I showered. I told him I wanted to talk about it, and he told me that he was just joking and that I'm a fudging moron if I actually thought he was serious. I told him that it was an odd joke, especially considering he was angry and very much not laughing when he told me. He insisted that he was joking, and I told him that I didn't believe him. He then responded by saying he wouldn't do it again. This went in circles for a bit before he finally admitted to deciding to do this after catching me in the shower. Instead of accusing him of anything, I asked him if he thought that was an invasion of my privacy, to which he informed me that we are married and I do not have privacy. I told him that was an issue and that in order to have a healthy marriage we both needed privacy. He was determined that there is no such thing as privacy in marriage, so I flat out asked him if he wanted me in the bathroom while he was pooping. He said no. I said, "Right, because you want your privacy." He told me that's different. Over the course of the next 10 minutes or so, this escalated from a simple conversation into a full-blown screaming match, and we got absolutely nowhere in our argument. It was like talking to a brick wall. I was so heated by this point that I don't even remember what was said, but he eventually told me I was a fucking worthless whore, that I had nothing without him, that my body was disgusting and made him sick, that I was fat and no one will ever want me, I'm 125 pounds BTW, that I'm lucky someone like him would even look in my direction, etc., etc., etc. I could barely see my phone through the tears, and I called my dad and asked him to come get me. My husband looked at me and said, "Your fudging dad isn't driving 6 hours to come get you, you dumb fudge." I started to grab some random things of mine, and yelled that he was here staying in town, and he broke down and started sobbing. He told me that he knows he's controlling, that he has serious issues, and that he's terrified of losing me. He said that he knows he's not good enough for me and that he's so afraid of losing me that he's pushing me away to save himself the inevitable heartache. He said that if he ever lost me he'd uninstall himself. As I watched this grown-ass man snotting and crying in a heap on the floor, I kinda realized that I feel nothing for him. Like nothing. The blinders I'd been wearing were removed and I no longer saw the handsome, intelligent, caring, strong man I once did. I saw a pathetic, abusive, controlling, sad, and sick person. I came to the realization in that moment that there's no fixing this, and even if he does change, I would never trust him or see him in the same way again. My dad knocked on the door, and my husband ran and hid in the bathroom. I took my bags and went outside to meet him. He asked me if I wanted to talk about what was going on, and I said no. He asked what I needed from him, and I asked if we could just go back to his hotel room. He asked if my husband hit me and I said no. Before we had even gotten to the hotel, my husband began texting me. It started with pleading with me to stay and forgive him and turned into insults over the course of the next day or so. He never threatened me physically, but told me if I didn't come home I'd lose him forever, that I'd be losing out on the best man I'd ever have, etc., etc. He told me that his friends laughed at him for being with such an ugly bitch, that his parents hate me because they know I'm not good enough for him, that I couldn't get pregnant because I'm probably a fucking whore banging other guys on the side, that he was embarrassed to be seen with me in public, and so much more. I'm leaving. And not because the internet told me to, because I'm genuinely not even remotely interested in staying with him, and because I deserve better. I spoke to a friend from school, and will be staying with her until I'm done school next month. After that, I'm going home to figure some things out and get a fresh start. I'm currently in bed in a hotel room with my dad and have never felt more loved or safe. He is going to go over to the house tomorrow and retrieve my belongings, after which he is helping me move into my friend's apartment, and then heading home. I don't have much to say at this point other than thank you again to everyone who made me realize how dangerous this situation could have been. I was determined that we were not going to divorce, but after Friday night I don't think there's any going back to that. I'm over it. I might update again, I might not. But making that post genuinely might have saved my life. Thank you. Final update. Thank you so very much to everyone for all the caring and reassuring comments, and for your patience in waiting for an update. It's been a roller coaster of a few days, but here's a few updates. I have not blocked his number because I want to collect these messages in case they are needed during divorce proceedings or anything like that. Also, no, I have not responded at any point. Eventually he turned to sending me texts about how he'd been cheating on me the entire time we were together, and told me that he fudged 2 girls the night of his bachelor party. I forgot to mention, I wasn't allowed to have a stag party. Whether he's telling the truth or not, I don't really care. He also told me that he can't believe how easy I was and that he never intended to stay with me, but that he just wanted to fuck me when I turned 18 and dip. He stopped texting me after sending me an essay on Wednesday about how he was going change and wanted another chance and all that. I have to confess that I almost caved reading that because he was saying things that made me believe that he was telling the truth. This is a very scary time for me and staying is always more convenient, but I just had to remind myself that he was just saying anything he could to try and get his way. I began to realize just how complicated divorce is. It's not just pack up and leave. We have a joint bank account, bundled auto insurance and phone plans. I have his last name, his name is on my car loan, all of our subscriptions are shared, etc. Thanks to all the commenters who shared great advice with this stuff, and I have began the process of severing these ties. I started by canceling all of our shared subscriptions and then deleting our shared email account. I also called our phone provider, and they were super helpful and offered to just split our plans. But I wanted to switch to a different company just to be safe, and they essentially just canceled my line without much hassle at all. I got a new phone and number, and am now on my parents' plan. I also turned off my shared location with him before that, and since, like I said, I have gotten a new number, and blocked him on all social media, changed my email address and updated all of my accounts and services with the new email and a new password. I also made a new Apple ID since I can't just buy a new laptop for school given the cost, so that should also ensure he has no access to my info as well. We, my parents and I, met virtually with the divorce lawyer that my dad knows and referred me to on Wednesday, and she is taking care of getting me off of the joint bank account, locking my credit. Didn't even know this was a thing, but thanks to the commenter who mentioned it, getting his name off of my car loan, and getting the formal process started for divorce. I don't want any money, I just want out as fast as possible. I have moved into my friend's apartment. It's a 2-bedroom/2-bathroom, so I stole her library/office/music room, but she was so accepting of me joining her, and having our own space is nice even if it's just for a couple months. I am so grateful to her for letting me stay and not even questioning it. As many of you mentioned, yes, my dad is a literal rock star. He, my mom, and my friends have all been so helpful and supportive, and I cannot thank them enough. My dad went to the house Monday to retrieve my belongings, and he took my friend's boyfriend with him, mostly just to help pack and move everything as fast as possible, but also just in case he was home and anything went sideways. My dad said he was home and refused to answer the door at first, but eventually did, and just sat at the kitchen table the entire time they were there. I don't own much. I took a bunch of clothes and essentials like bathroom stuff and electronics with me when I left, so they were in and out in like 45 minutes. Basically everything in that house in his and was purchased with his own money. My divorce lawyer is basically taking care of everything because I seriously need to focus on school right now, but I want this process wrapped up as quickly as possible. My exams wrap in late June and I'm trying to be calm and patient because if I'm just in a huge rush to get out of here, I fear that my exams will go very poorly. My friend is helping me a lot with studying and getting prepared, and I always join study groups in preparation for exams, which are super helpful as well. No, this is not the first time he's turned to insults during an argument, or when he doesn't get his way, but it's by far the most hurtful and explosive. I am 100% committed to divorce and I will not be looking back or changing my mind, no matter what happens at this point. This is a promise that I have made to myself, and it's a promise that I really struggled to make. I still feel sick and have a constant nerve in my stomach, because the idea of actually leaving and starting over is extremely terrifying. Thankfully, I have a great support network, and know that I will have people there to help me through this every step of the way. I also just keep reading the messages he sent me the last few days and reminding myself that no one talks to someone they love like that, and that he is no example of a man I want to spend the rest of my life with.
My husband is going out of town for 2 weeks and he is forcing me to wear a tracking device. He is so controlling and I want out. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 30M, who I'll call Alex. Alex and I met in college during our freshman year. We started off as just friends and got married 7 months ago. I've gotten along with his family, but we aren't super close, but we're friendly enough. The problem is that Alex has begun to make me incredibly uncomfortable. Firstly, he's begun to ask me who I'm meeting with, where, what we plan on doing, how long every single time I leave the house without him. At first, I just thought he was being protective and a good partner just in case something happened. But then he started checking my phone after the visits, vetting and researching each of my friends as well. He also has been pursuing me to link my bank account to his, as he's in charge of the finances when he was perfectly fine with keeping them separate before. We fight about it almost every day. Finally, yesterday, when he was preparing to go on a work trip for 2 weeks in California, he demanded I wear a tracker so he could keep an eye on me while he's gone. I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm suffocating, and his family, who I've spoken to about his worrying behavior, just said he's being careful and protective as a good husband should. I need to gather my things together and find a way to be gone before he gets home without tipping him off. He's always threatened that if he ever found me cheating on him, he'd turn in divorce papers the same day. He keeps a filled-out copy in his desk. I'm going to submit those the day I leave. But there's so much to do. Finding a new place to live, seeing if my job has any transfers available, packing and moving in 2 weeks. His return flight May 11th, so I need to move quickly. I'm posting here because I don't have any close family, and I can't risk dragging my friends into this as we share the same friends. I just needed a place to vent and ask if anyone has any advice on the easiest and safest way to do this. Edit. I'll check for cameras before I start any packing or prepping. I may also shred his divorce papers just in case and look into getting a lawyer for myself. I'm in a no-fault divorce state, that much I so remember, which will help. I'll update again when I know more. The tracker he wants me to use is a small clip to put on the belt or waistband. I'll wear it unless I'm going or doing something related to me leaving. No pets yet, thankfully. Update. So I've gotten a lot of support and helpful advice, along with questions I thought I should clarify before I proceed with the update. Some asked why I'd be hiding things from Alex regarding going out and who I'm meeting with. I don't, and I have nothing to hide. However, when he begins to then double-check everything I tell him with the other people there, right down to each person I talked to and what I said. Did I send any text MSGs? Did I order food? How much did I eat? That's when it started to feel like I was slowly being pushed into a corner. It didn't start that bad, but gradually grew worse over time. All of the online subs my in-laws' families are part of are related gardening and DIY, so I highly doubt they'll see this. If so, by the time they do, I'll hopefully be gone. I talked to my job and explained things to my manager, and they promised to look into openings in other states to see if they could get me into one. They'll have an update on that in 3 days. I trust that my bank account is secured, considering he's tried to get into it before and failed. I found one camera in the kitchen, another in the living room, and one in our bedroom. As such, I've left them in place for now and done all other planning, either in the bathroom pretending I'm taking a bath. I'm honestly staying away from the domestic violence services, as my sister-in-law is unfortunately higher up in those considering she volunteers there, and I have a feeling if I did show up there, they would know in a heartbeat. I can't look for apartments until I get the update from my work, but either or I'm still going to be leaving the state. The day before I do, I will be changing my number carrier and wiping my laptop and all of his electronics before I do. I've met with 2 lawyers so far and had them look over the paperwork. My husband had prepared and both said that it have some clauses in it that could have caused me some trouble down the line. What alarmed all of us closed the fact that several of those clauses dealt with future children, and not as a hypothetical. Like several hairs suggested, I have a feeling he fully intended on getting me pregnant to keep me trapped and tied to him. There are 3 other locations my job could send me to, and I have, as a precaution, begun looking into all 3 cities and housing in the areas. Just in case one of those, this is the one they send me to. Even if they don't have an opening that they can push me into, then I will just have to quit, move, and figure things out on my own. I have enough money to live and survive for a few months until I can pick up another job. Unfortunately, all of our friends are mutuals and would likely be unaware of the consequences of saying or sharing anything I do or say with my husband. I don't have any surviving close family, and obviously my in-laws are not a good resource to rely on. I am on my own, unfortunately, other than the wonderful bonds I've begun to make here. I will update again if I get more information or something else happens. Otherwise, I'll update when my work gets back to me. I do plan on leaving before he returns, though, just to make sure that I'm not anywhere near here at that time. Update 2. Good news. My work has an opening I qualify for that will not only shift me across the country, but also comes with a salary increase as well. I've started telling my in-laws and friends that I'm planning a surprise outing for when my husband gets back for just the 2 of us. This way, people don't give me odd looks if they see me out and about. I've even gone as far as asking MIL to show me his favorite recipes. Meanwhile, I've found a moving company that, while small, is willing to work in a storm. The reason is, in 5 days, we're supposed to get hit with a large storm front. I plan to shut off the breaker and say we lost power if he asks, just as several people here suggested, and even send him a short clip of the storm. I will have all of my stuff moved that afternoon, and I will be flying out once the weather has cleared enough to do so. I have a lawyer who will push my divorce through, and I've filled out the necessary paperwork so that I don't have to be here for it. I'm not suing for assets or alimony, and I've shredded his divorce papers as well. I've set up a cheap payphone plan through Cricket until this is all said and done, at which point I will find a new carrier, number, and phone. This one is being wiped and left behind. My laptop is provided by my work, and the IT department inspected it thoroughly and it was clean, thankfully. No other electronic aside from my laptop and new phone will be coming with me. If Alex needs to talk to me, he can do it through my lawyer. Not sure if anything else will happen. My fingers are crossed that he doesn't think anything's amiss until after I leave. And I'm not turning the breaker back on when I do. He can when he gets home. My work is covering the plane ticket, so that at least is one expense I don't have to finagle in. Update 3, it's been a busy week, but I've gotten so much done. Firstly, I'm now out of the house and am currently in a hotel while I look for an apartment. It's a big city, bustling with people no matter where you look. We had a pretty bad storm system hit back home that actually lasted 2 days. High winds, thunder, lightning, and even hail everywhere. I didn't take much from the house, my documents, clothes, and important sentimental items. I left all of the furniture and electronics behind. I cleaned the house top to bottom and took pictures on my phone so he couldn't claim I damaged anything when I left. My lawyer has already started divorce proceedings and my husband will be served on the 8th. His plane is due to land early morning and the sheriff will be there at the house waiting for him. He is very much about public appearances and reputation. My lawyer will be calling him as well to inform him that I am more than willing to air out everything to the public about his actions if it means securing my freedom from him. I will go to court as long as I must to get this pushed through. I haven't told our friends or his in-laws yet. I will do that while he is on the flight to prevent him from getting wind of it before he's handed the divorce papers. I will be calling around and explaining why we're getting divorced to try and prevent him from twisting this into somehow being my fault. I don't want him trying to claim I had an affair or something, so I want to get the truth out before he can twist this. I'm doing okay. I'm tired, but yet I feel almost jittery and off-kilter. I keep looking over my shoulder and monitoring what I say, even when I don't really need to anymore. Hopefully that will fade soon. My work is covering the cost of the hotel, and I'm working on getting my other things in order. I also need to find a new GP as I want to get a full test, just to make sure everything is okay. I don't know when my next update will be, probably when the divorce papers are filed or if we have to go to court to push them through. I will try to keep my head up, but it feels like I'm in a whirlwind or something with so many things to do and think about. I kind of thought it would be easier once I got out of the house, but while the fear is smaller, somehow the number of tasks only seems to have grown. Update 4. Sorry I haven't updated for a while, things got hectic and a bit chaotic, honestly. Firstly, I'm working on getting an apartment still and have applications in at 3 different places, and will hopefully hear back from them soon. I'm still going into work here at the new location, so I don't have to worry about burning through my emergency savings completely. I've gotten a lot of emails from Alex, his family, and our old friend group asking question after question. I have only sent one return email to Alex, explaining that I don't believe we are truly compatible, and it is best we separate now. That his treatment of me when I'd done nothing to deserve as such was just as much of a deal breaker as cheating was for him. I ended the email with the statement that I would not be contacting him further, and anything else he needed to pass on to me or vice versa would be done through my lawyer. For his family and friends, I just typed up one email outlining everything that had happened and why I left. I told them I wished them no ill will, but that such treatment of his wife and partner was not acceptable. That should Alex get remarried in the future, I wish they would help support both partners and not just Alex. Alex, from what my lawyer told me, was livid when he was served. The sheriff actually ended up booking him for assault on an officer and menacing due to the threats he was shouting. His father bailed him out in a few hours, but with the testimony of the sheriff, my lawyer believes I have a very good chance at getting a restraining order. Alex, upon returning to the house, apparently lost his temper again, breaking the dining table into pieces as well as the TV and putting several holes in the walls. At least that's what one of the emails from one of our friends reported as Alex called him to help him clean up the mess. My lawyer already has pictures of the house I took, with timestamps as evidence nothing had been damaged by me. My friend reported that Alex tried to claim I'd been the one to trash the house, but the holes in the wall were at head height. Alex is 6'3", and I'm 5'4", so he knew that was false. Either way, taking the pictures definitely will help me. So again, thank you everyone here for the advice, because I never would have thought of that on my own. My work won't share details of where I am, as I do work with some higher-end clientele who value security, and that information won't be gossiped about, and no, I'm not some stripper or escort. I deal with contracts, notary, and business management. As such, even if Alex tried to use my work to find me, he wouldn't succeed. Final update. It's been a little bit, and I thought I'd answer some questions before giving my update. It may be a while after this until things change. Firstly, no, I didn't bring my car. The public transport here is good enough to use without needing one. I have secured an apartment and the building has good security. You need a key card to enter, and there is a security guard at a desk right by the entrance to the building. As part of my contract, I gave them a photo of Alex and his family, so that even in the off chance they do find me, they won't be let in. The responses I got from the emails varied. His family said I was overreacting, and that I owe Alex an apology for the problems this has caused him. The pending criminal charges puts him at risk of losing his job if he's convicted. Alex sent a long email, apologizing and pleading for me to come home. He said he was worried for me, that he is willing to go to therapy if it will appease me. He wants us to remain together, and he didn't think leaving was an appropriate response to his genuine concern and worry for my health and safety. The friends gave somewhat lacking replies, saying that they didn't think Alex was ever going to hurt me, and that I shouldn't be letting my imagination run away wild. As much as I want to say I was surprised by the lack of support, I'm honestly not. He intends to fight the divorce. I am letting my lawyer handle it, and I am also pursuing a protective order as well. Once I got approved for my apartment, I also froze my credit. I've changed my phone carrier and number, as well as making sure none of my documents list Alex as next of kin or POA. Some have asked why I was so paranoid about Alex and his possible future actions. The answer for that actually is somewhat simple. My grandmother. I loved that woman to bits. As a teen, she explained why my grandfather was never around. He was extremely abusive and manipulative, and her generation didn't allow divorce, really. She wouldn't have been able to buy a house or get a good enough job to support her and my mother on her own. As such, she endured it, shielded my mom as she could until my grandfather died. When I felt like I may have been overreacting, I remembered how she'd said she'd always wished she'd been able to see grandfather for what he was early on, when she may have been able to annul the marriage.